planning your day, keeping you safe, forecasting for you. From KCTV5, this is the First Warn 5 Weather Show.
It is a big day in Kansas City. You are watching Kansas City's first and only all-weather show. Our chief meteorologist, Luke Doris, is here. Luke, what an appropriate day, really, to launch this show.
No kidding. That's right. We're tracking a major storm system that's pushing its way toward Kansas City. And we have the entire First Warn 5 weather team, and we're here making sure that you have everything you need to know to be prepared. So we've got this line of storms that's working its way through portions of Kansas and Nebraska. A lot of this is severe, and it's moving east. All right. So a lot of warnings along that. You can see the orange underneath. That's a tornado watch. That does include portions of our coverage area. I'll show you in just a second. But that whole line right there is rather strong. You see which way it's moving. It's about 35, 40 miles per hour. So it's got a little time before it's here, but until 11 p.m. in these orange shaded counties that do include Holt and Missouri. We've got Atchison County. We've got Douglas, Franklin, Anderson, and Kansas all under that tornado watch. It will likely get expanded, maybe a severe thunderstorm watch, but it will probably include the metro later on tonight as those storms get closer. So here's the risk level this evening, a level 3 out of 5 across the area. And the potential's there for strong, damaging winds and some brief tornadoes and some hail. It's even a higher risk. By Garnett and Lacine, that's a rather rare level 4 out of 5. So let's look at that risk as a powerful line of storms comes in. This will be a fast hit. It'll be a rather hard hit. Timing is as early as 8 p.m. and as late as 4 a.m. Kind of depends on where you are. And on top of that, again, the risk here, some of these winds could be 75 to 80 miles per hour and brief spin-up tornadoes, something that we're tracking here very closely. Hey, while we have a rather rare level 4 out of 5 in our area, other places are even higher. Top of the scale, level 5 out of 5 risk. Warren, we don't see that often. Can you tell us just how rare those are?
Yeah, we sure don't. When you crunch the numbers in about a 10-year span, this high risk in this bright pink shade here, which is south of Wichita for today and then through the heart of Oklahoma City, really pretty much down 35. This happens about once per year that we get a high risk issued. So definitely very rare. That's kind of unfolding right now in this part of the area. But the Kansas City metro, as Luke just mentioned, it's going to be a little ways before it gets here, so we'll keep a close eye. There is that moderate level 4 out of 5 risk from the Storm Prediction Center for Anderson and Linn counties this evening. That only happens about 2 times per year in our local area. So definitely going to see how this unfolds. It is marching in from the west, and we'll keep a close eye. Luke.
Thank you, Warren. It's days like today. That's why we changed our brand and how we message the threat. We want to warn you about the changes in the weather, but you might ask, what's the difference between a first warn and a first warn weather day like today? Melissa, can you walk everyone through that?
Absolutely. So a first warn is just when there's a little bit of an inconvenience or a bigger change in the weather, and that can be seen like light rain showers through the area as you're heading out for your morning commute. So early warning for any change in weather. That could be high pollen on the way, regular rain and thunderstorms on the way, like per se during our morning or our evening commute, or anything that's really impactful. Now when we get to the first warn weather day, that's when we're going to be into that life-threatening or dangerous weather, kind of like a day like today, where we have the significant severe weather threat, a high tornado threat, high hail, damaging winds of 70 to 80 miles an hour like we could have today, or extreme heat and flash flooding. So more inconvenience for our first warn and more life-threatening dangerous weather for our first warn weather day. Luke, over to you.
Forecasts built just for you as we go zone by zone.
All right, we want to get you the forecast for your neighborhood. This is for tonight as we track this line of storms coming through. When can you expect it? Let's start up in our northern zone as we go up by areas in St. Joe and Maryville in Oregon and Atchison, about 8 to 10 p.m. if you're further to the west. If you're more toward Cameron and Bethany, you can see that line of storms working east, about 9 p.m. until midnight. And for some of us, again, this is a late night event, 10 p.m. until after midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, Trenton, Chillicothe, Brookfield, Bramer, places like that. Intense lightning, we could have some hail. Let's go south where we could also see those winds up to 70 to 80 miles per hour. It's possible. So Oskaloosa, Lawrence, 8 to 10. Around Kansas City, 9 to midnight. Excelsior Springs, you're included in that as well. Then Carrollton and Marshall, 10 p.m. until 1 for you. You're in that zone. In the southern zone, that would also include Sedalia, Warsaw, Warrensburg, 9 p.m. until about midnight. That's Belton, Garden City, and Butler. There's a brief tornado spin-up that's possible. The greatest threat is by Ottawa, Garnett, and Mound City. That's 8 p.m. until 10.
Now to some wild weather caught on camera. New video shows the moment a tornado tears down a warehouse in Nebraska. Check this out. It was captured on dash cam on April 26th. You can see the calm, kind of ominous start here. But in just seconds, a tornado barrels through, leveling that building. Keep in mind, dozens of workers were still inside that building when the tornado hit. Miraculously, they all survived. National Weather Service says that tornado had wind speeds of up to 158 miles per hour. Meanwhile, in California, strong winds toppled scaffolding, knocking down traffic lights. This news chopper aerial footage shows its collapse right there onto the street below. Local officials say no one was on the structure at the time, and luckily, too, no one was driving near the scene as it fell.
Helping you plan ahead. This is your First Warn 5 planning calendar.
Well, there's always something happening in the Kansas City area, and as we take a look at our planning calendar, many things happening over the course of the next week. I do want to start out with Tuesday, as Tuesday is looking like to be a fabulous day. Now, temperatures are going to hang out in the 70s if you are heading to the Royals game. Light winds between 5 to 15 miles per hour, and temperatures by the time the first pitch is off in the mid-70s, falling to the upper 60s by the time 9:30 rolls around. And as we head towards the weekend, a big weekend shaping up. Saturday, if you're heading to Sporting KC, there is a small chance for an isolated shower, but temperatures are still pretty comfortable in that 70-degree range before they fall into the 60s as you head towards the 7, 8, 9 o'clock hours. So overall, pretty pleasant conditions are shaping up for our Saturday, but the small chance for an isolated shower as you head into the afternoon, evening hours. Carolyn, to you.
Still ahead, meteorologist Greg Bennett explains the key element that keeps storms at bay and what happens when it disappears.
You're watching Kansas City's only all-weather show with Chief Meteorologist Luke Doris and the First Warn 5 weather team. This is the First Warn 5 weather show.
Welcome back. You're looking live across Kansas City. This is over KCI out at the airport. It's calm right now, but that could change in a couple hours. One of the reasons why we're calm right now is something that we call the cap. And this is a key to thunderstorm development. Meteorologist Greg Bennett, explain what the cap is.
All right, thanks, Luke. You know, we're talking about this severe storm activity developing into the area for us, and there's a couple of things that we need, right? We talked about shear, we're talking about lift, but there's also something above our heads called the cap, or kind of the ceiling. And it's the barrier that stops storms from forming up around 40,000 feet. So what is the cap, and what do we need to break it? All right, so let's talk about that. First and foremost, it's very easy to talk about the cap. It is literally a barrier of warm air that's above our heads, kind of settling in around 40,000 feet, and it stops the growth of storms out there to get above that kind of height. Now, how do we break it? First things first, you do need warm air to rise, right? And we do decrease temperatures as we move up into the atmosphere. So as long as we have temperatures falling in height, we will continue to have that warm air lift into the atmosphere until it hits some warmer conditions, i.e. the cap or the ceiling of the atmosphere. So we break it by adding more and more warm air from the surface, lifting it harder and harder and stronger up into the atmosphere. Sometimes it gets some help from frontal boundaries or low pressure systems, and we call that forced lifting. So again, it's going to be even more forceful to break down that warmer air above our heads. There's sometimes a weak point in that warm air, and that allows us to break it and start to build that thunderstorm above the ceiling. When we get to that, we get into significant severe storm activity, damaging wind, hail, and even tornado development.
And coming up, we have your 5 things you need to know, including the big win in an animal abuse case. Plus, Chief Meteorologist Luke Doris is tracking new data on these severe storms heading this way.
Take the First Warn 5 weather team on the go. Download the First Warn 5 weather app right now in the Apple or Google Play Store.
Welcome back. Here's a live look at the radar near Wichita. You can see the storms are trying to inch their way closer to us. What we see here is a line of powerful storms producing widespread severe weather. There is an embedded tornado warning within that line, and then a noticeable gap between Oklahoma and Wichita. Will these two lines connect into one? That's something that we're monitoring. We're waiting on something called the low-level jet. That's high wind speeds about a mile above the ground. That's expected to increase over the next few hours, kind of fan these storms and see if they will expand and continue to produce severe weather. That's the threat for tonight. Hey, I'll be breaking down when you will expect to see these storms on your front door. That's going to be coming up soon. Carolyn, over to you.
Here are the 5 things you need to know from KCTV5.
One of the men accused of murder in the Chiefs championship rally shooting appeared before a judge for the first time today. 18-year-old Dominic Miller faces numerous murder and weapons charges. He was booked into jail Friday after spending nearly 3 months in the hospital. Prosecutors believe a bullet from Miller's gun was the one that hit and killed Lisa Lopez Galvan. Kansas City's municipal website is down, so doors to the court are closed too. This comes after computer systems across the city were compromised. It's causing a headache for people needing help.
There's an active warrant, and it's really concerning because, I mean, a police officer could just come grab me and, you know, do his rightful job. And, I mean, that screws up my whole day, possibly week, until I can get that whole situation fixed.
And the city tells us they don't know how long this outage will last. Kansas City's safety plan for the entertainment districts is in full swing, which means ramping up the safety precautions. So every weekend during the summer months, more than a dozen patrol units will be out in those districts like Westport, the Plaza, 18th and Vine. Plus, summer curfews will start after Memorial Day, so anyone under age 18 must be with an adult in those places starting at 9 p.m. KC Pet Project calls it a big win in the fight against animal abuse. They worked with prosecutors to convict 2 women facing more than 24 charges. A tip said animals were living in inhumane conditions, so authorities rescued those pets. And one of the owners was sentenced to 5 days in jail. And tracking tomorrow, voters in KCK will decide on a $420 million bond for public schools. That money will go towards new schools, allowing some to merge. Remodeling also part of this plan, along with a new aquatic center and a main public library. If approved, the bond does come with a tax increase.
Now, your first Warn 5 weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Luke Doris.
All right, we've been talking a lot about these storms moving our way tonight. What's the deal? What can we expect with them? Let's look at the possibilities here, kind of the range. We'll start with what to be prepared for. Essentially, this is worst case. This is what is possible. It's not a forecast, but it's possible if the storms were to reach their full potential. And that could be hurricane force winds. I'm talking 75 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts in the strongest storms if they can get that powerful. With that would come power outages and downed trees. So how can you prepare for that? Well, make sure that your devices are charged. So if you lose power, you've got a way to track the storms, get warnings. First Warn weather app, First Warn 5 weather app has everything you need, even if you lose power. With downed trees, something to think about is I've got kids at home, and if there were one of these storms coming through and winds were that strong, I have already talked to my wife. Hey, don't treat that like a severe thunderstorm warning. Treat it like a tornado warning. Get the kids down into the basement or away from windows and the exterior walls. Most likely, though, a lot of us will just see strong to severe storms, 40 to 60 mile per hour winds, 40 miles per hour. We can deal with that. We see that somewhat regularly. In best case, you fall in a gap between the strong storms and you just get a little rain and lightning. Some of us may end up with just that. We do have the tornado watch until 11 p.m. That is west of the metro. We will see if this gets expanded into the evening as the storms march closer to us. We expect that that probably will happen. The main risk for tonight, wind gusts 70 miles per hour or higher. Quarter-size hail can't be ruled out, and a brief tornado spin-up. Not long-track tornadoes, but you get this line of storms, and embedded within that, you can get these brief tornadoes that drop, something that we're monitoring. Take a closer look at the risk level across the area. That's at level 3 out of 5, what we call an enhanced risk. Everybody's under that. That's why we think that that watch will get expanded, but it's actually a little higher, level 4 out of 5, down by Garnett and Lacine. That's a level, again, 4 out of 5 for a higher tornado threat. And then Warren was talking about this earlier, that rare level 5 out of 5. You don't see this often. about once per year from Wichita down to Oklahoma City. Timing for the storms, 7 to 10. That's Atchison, Lawrence, and Ottawa and Garnett. 8 to 11 for the Metro, Maryville and Harrisonville. And then 10 and later east of the Metro for the start time. And while the storms are ongoing, remember, this is going to be an overnight event while some of us are sleeping. But they'll tail off by, 3, 4 o'clock. Then they're on out of here. This is the line of storms right now, about 135 miles away. All is quiet at the moment. We're watching that break. We hope that that break holds and this doesn't turn into one big line that comes through our area, but that possibility is certainly there. Let's track it on Forecast Track as we go to first warn weather day territory. This is by 9. Strong storms marching into the coverage area. Lawrence and Ottawa, probably about 10 for Kansas City and north and south, and then it works its way eastward. This is midnight. Still some storms around before it starts to move away. There it is, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and by tomorrow morning, it's much better. And tomorrow afternoon, quiet, 70s and sunshine. We'll be looking forward to that. Melissa, over to you.
Thanks, Luke. The First Warn 5 weather team loves meeting new faces. Warren, you visited some pretty awesome students earlier today.
I sure did. We were out in Baser, and I got to visit with the third graders at Glenwood Ridge Elementary School. And let me just tell you, these kids are polite and they are sharp. And we had the best time out there this afternoon. They even got to see the mobile weather tracker. We got to go outside. We just talked a little bit about the broadcast, world and the meteorology world, and really just was great. They had great questions, and we talked about the severe threat this evening. So all in all, 10 out of 10. I know it's hard to spot me in that picture, right? Yeah, just kidding.
You blend right in, Warren.
Blend right in.
Yeah, that looks like so much fun. And if any of you want the First Warn 5 weather team to come speak to your classroom, you can find more information on our website, KCTV5.com. Carolyn.
All right, thanks, guys. Sign me up. We know how busy this time of year can be, so we're helping you get ready. Melissa is tracking what to expect in your 7-day forecast.
And before we head to break, we have a weather trivia question for you. The question is, what conditions are needed to issue a severe thunderstorm warning? Hint, there are 2 possible answers. Think about it. We'll have the answer. It's coming up right after the break. Welcome back. Before we went to break, we asked you this question. What conditions are needed to issue a severe thunderstorm warning? The answer, at least 58-mile-per-hour winds and or 1 inch in diameter or larger hail. If a storm meets either one of those criteria, it is considered a severe thunderstorm.
Tracking the changes day by day. This is your First Warn 5 7-day forecast.
After that potent line of rain and storms moves through this evening and tonight, things are much quieter as we head into our Tuesday. We do have a chance for an isolated shower throughout the course of the day, but we're going to be in the upper 70s, partly cloudy skies, and temperatures across the remainder of our area mainly hitting that 70-degree mark. 76 in Marshall, 77 in Kansas City, 72 in Maryville, and 75 in Paola. Now, as we head into Wednesday, another first warn in the forecast as we're tracking a 30% chance for rain and thunderstorms. Some of that could be strong to severe, mainly east of the I-35 corridor. All modes of severe weather are possible, but the primary threats are going to be damaging winds and hail. An isolated tornado cannot be ruled out, but if you look far to the southeast, in that level 3 out of 5 risk is where the better chance for those severe storms are going to set up. As we head into Thursday, small chance for an isolated shower, much cooler in the upper 60s. Upper 60s and dry conditions hang around for Friday. Saturday, small chance for rain returns. We're in the 70s. And then by Sunday, which is Mother's Day, looking like a beautiful day for your Mother's Day brunch if you are heading into the afternoon hours. Eventually going to see those temperatures hang out in the 70s with mostly to partly sunny skies. Carolyn, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. Coming up tonight on KCTV5 News at 10 o'clock, the new push to make marijuana legal in Kansas. Lawmakers have ruled it out for this session, but we talked to the local councilwoman who thinks she's now put the dream team together to get this done. So we'll give you an early scoop at what exactly she is planning. Again, that's tonight on our news at 10 o'clock.
Well, this was our First Warn 5 weather show, but the weather's still coming for us here tonight. So Melissa, Warren, we're all going to be here tracking the storms, keep everybody out ahead of these things as they move our way. We'll see what they do. They've got high potential, and we'll just be monitoring.
All right, we're counting on you, and we do thank you for joining us here on our inaugural day. Stay safe, stay tuned in to KCTV5 for complete storm coverage throughout the night.